Yes, hi everyone. Sorry it's been a while since I made a video. I have actually made several videos since my last one, but they become so long and boring that I often end up just deleting them and not bothering to upload them. This time I think I've got a few things to talk about, so I will discuss them. There should be some things of interest. Obviously the big news lately is around the Nokia Lumias and all Windows phones is the two updates of the GDR2 update from Microsoft, which is like the latest iteration of Windows Phone 8, and the related Amber update from Nokia, which gives us some new features and updates for the phones, for Lumia phones. And here I have my Lumia 920, which is updated, and my wife's Lumia 920, which is not. And I think we saw one of the features just then, in fact, which was, well, we can see a couple of the features already. But the first thing I want to do before we start this is, warn anyone watching, or warn everyone watching, that my videos are long, I talk a lot, they tend to go on, and I don't edit them afterwards. So if you're not happy to sit through a long video, best to stop right now. Okay, now I want to test the shutdown and startup time with a Portico updated Lumia 920. That's the last major update, and the current Amber version. So I'm just going to turn them off. Okay, that all seems normal. And I did this earlier on, and I noticed something that I just want to confirm now. I had the impression, okay, they're both off at the same time. Now this is the Amber one, and I'm going to start them at the same time. I seem to recall this didn't give me the vibrate when it started, but I'll just try and confirm that now. Here we go. Yeah, I only got the vibrate on this one. I don't think that gives us the vibrate on start anymore, which is fine. I mean, who knows? I'm not sure. Didn't think it was that bad, but I guess maybe it's just unnecessary. I don't know. In any case, here they go. They're off. Excuse the ugly local telecom logo. Look, someone did that with a pen. So it's quicker, you see. The Amber Lumia is quicker to the start screen, only by a second. First time I did it, it was around 4 or 5 seconds, but this time it was virtually equal. So, yeah, no great dramas there. Approximately the same. Now, I will just I will actually go down the list of changes that are in this update, and then I'll try to talk about some of the things that I think are sort of important or were very interesting for me. The new things are, first about updating. How do you get your update? Where I live, these phones are not yet officially receiving the update. If I go to that page on Microsoft, it just says it's still in testing or coming soon or something boring like that. My carrier is very slow to do anything, and so they'll probably just wait for everyone else to do it, and then if nothing goes wrong, they'll just release it themselves. And but in any case, the update is already out there. It's on the Nokia servers, and it can be installed. And I did the Portico using that Nokia Care Suite and went through all that long drama to update, and that worked fine. But that was closed down, and Nokia made it so it was no longer available. And so instead, I was just going to wait for the update, but then all of a sudden I found a link to this tool called the Nokia Software Updater for Retail, and that is really cool. I thought I'd give it a shot. I looked on it, it had the right update for my phone, for my carrier, and so I flashed it. Now the disadvantage in doing that is that you wipe your phone, you lose everything on it, you're basically re-flashing it all from scratch. Whereas if you wait for the over-the-air update, you'll be able to update your phone without wiping it. Well, I'm quite happy to wipe my phone, so I went for it. I said, let's go, wipe it. And, you know, backing up is no trouble with these. The photos are on SkyDrive. Music doesn't matter because I only use Xbox Music Pass. I backed up a few of these little apps, like I set up a Zite account to save the news stories. I backed up my Marketing and Me app and a few things like that, my simple timesheet program, which never seems to work properly, actually, the backup. And then I just wiped the phone. And I was going to decide later whether or not I would use the backup online to restore it. That meant restoring music, restoring all the apps I had installed, and so on. Previously I have not done that because I really like to start with a clean slate. This time I actually did it because I wanted to just, I thought I'd give it a shot. I thought it'd be nice to have all my accounts set up because I got about 8 accounts. I thought it'd be nice to have all my messages and so on back, and so I did it, and it all came back, and that was great. You still have to opt to install the apps. You'll find when you go to your app screen, I found there are a whole bunch of apps listed here that were listed as having a fault. It said they were faulty, and so what I did was you could tap and hold on them, and then you could cancel them. And they weren't faulty so much as almost duplicates or something. It was some kind of issue. But in any case, the apps that were on here all came back, and I just let it install them, and that was all fine. The music I ended up completely deleting for another reason, which I'll go into a little bit later in this video. And for my photos, I just dragged my favorites folder off the phone and then put it back on again afterwards, because I like to keep my favorites the same and not have to reassign them again. And so then I did the update, and that was very quick and easy. It's about 1.2 gigs or so that it downloads, and then it flashes the phone pretty quickly, comes back to life, and you've got GDR2 and the Amber thing, and then you have to get all these Nokia apps like the display and touch, all these kinds of apps that Nokia does, the feedback, the storage check, the account, access point, this one here, display and touch, extras and info, accessories, audio, and I think it stops there, or maybe a network, somewhere about there. These are all these extra Nokia delivered items that you also need. And then also the new apps that you get as part of Amber, like the new camera, which is the Lumia 1020 camera and so on. Those all came in without any trouble. I have seen that other people didn't receive those for a day or so, or they had to use the Lumia Updates app, Lumia Pusher, to get them on their phones and so on. On mine, they sort of arrived pretty quickly. Within an hour I was installing them, and that was great. Okay, now just going to that was the update process, so it went very smoothly. I'm glad I didn't have to wait around for it. So the next thing, just got to quickly whip down the list of features that are part of this GDR2 Amber update, and just point out anything of interest. There is the DataSense. Yes, that is here on my carrier. I understand that some carriers will block it, like AT&T. I don't really see why. I understand they have their own app for it, but I don't see why you'd need to block this. All you do is you put in how much your plan is when it changes over, and there you go. It just keeps track of what you use. But nicely, it also keeps track of what the stuff was used for. Like for app downloads, I think the white figure is the amount that was done on data, and the darker grayed out figure is the total, including Wi-Fi. And so my music downloads, I downloaded one album over data and the rest on Wi-Fi, so you can see that difference there. So it's quite neat to know where the data is going, and if you've got some bad habit that's using up a lot of data, you can certainly find that here. As we can see, most things do nothing, and this was getting new music on my phone. This is streaming. I listen to streaming stuff every night on Wi-Fi. Sometimes I worry that's going to all of a sudden switch to data and then, charge me a gigabyte of data overnight or something, but obviously it doesn't. Okay, so that's nice. That's a DataSense feature, which is certainly useful if you're trying to watch how much data you use. Also making a comeback, one of my favorites from the Lumia 800, the Windows 7 7.5 camera phone. I'm starting to call them cameras now. Is of course the radio. I always liked the Windows 8 radio, Windows Phone 8 radio. It's just a nice, easy to use, just really stylish Just swipe like that to get from station to station. You can, if you don't know, and I like the way it comes up with the track names and the station as well, depending on what they're broadcasting. If they broadcast that data, there's the station. You can tap on it and then pin a station to your start screen. How cool is that? You can pin any number of stations. And also switch to speaker. Just like that. So you still have to have this plugged in because it's the antenna. It won't work without that. But once it's in, you can just put it aside like that and listen to it without headsets. So that's really nice. Very cool. Add stations to your favorites and so on. It's also interesting that when you're doing stuff like this, if you go up here, these controls operate your radio. So again, the start-stop just is like the play button. Radio on off, and then the forward and back skips your stations. It's like the auto search. So that's pretty cool, and I think the same goes for on here, of course, the volume, but then, yeah, double tap skips the station. I was just trying a triple click to see if that would go back and forth, but it didn't seem to. No, it's just going forwards. It probably just goes forwards in a loop. But anyhow, that's pretty cool. Definitely like the radio. It's a nice way to listen to stuff without paying. If you're on a holiday and you haven't got Wi-Fi, or if you're in a hotel room or somewhere without Wi-Fi, you can still listen to music all night or whatever without having to pay anything. So I like that. Also for emergencies, you know, that's your emergency broadcast system comes through that. So good stuff. Like the radio. Okay, what else have we got? The camera, which I'll go into at the end of this, because that's obviously the big one, I think, and it's the big one for me. Voicemail group messaging. I'm just reading off the site here at Microsoft where they've listed these features at Microsoft blog site. So group messaging. Oh, this is for people who get audio supports a whole lot more codecs, which is apparently for people who receive receive voicemail as attachments to emails. I don't know who does that or why, but maybe there's some kind of forwarding service that forwards voice messages to email, and they use all kinds of funny old codecs, and so the phone supports a whole lot more codecs for that purpose. Then it says a whole lot of there's group messaging on Verizon, so that doesn't matter to me. I have seen people complain about not having that though, so that's probably good for them. And then a whole slew of bug fixes and improvements, so that's great, especially around phone storage and music. So when they say phone storage, that's that other storage issue, where you get that space used by other. Which I never had that problem so much. I mean, space obviously gets used by other, but I didn't have the problem with it. I think people with smaller phones and people who use the phone in some different way may be having that trouble. I didn't seem to have it, but anyhow, that's fixed. So you'd never expect the other folder to have no data in it. I'll just use the Nokia storage check app because it is a temp folder, and just like your Windows temp or any application's temp folder, it has to have files in there. They're there for a purpose. They're held open temporarily because you've accessed the file for you either have it open or you've got it shared somewhere, or it's being uploaded somewhere or whatever. It has to use the space, has to have the space, so it's never clear. Here I've got other 603 megabytes, and I've had the phone running for 6 days now with this update. Who knows? I mean, I would expect it to have something like that, so that's fine. Temporary files up here, 17 megabytes. It says I can clear those if I want. I won't bother. Maps 78, apps 1.5 gigs. So anyhow, that app's still there and it's very cool. And so hopefully they've resolved that problem, especially for people with the smaller phones like 8 gigabyte phones. They definitely had problems with space. Okay, Google, because of course Google a while ago said they were going to drop support for Microsoft Exchange, which is a real blow to businesses using Google services or Google Apps for domains. But hey, what does Google care? Doesn't. So Microsoft has added CalDev and CardDev to this, so you can sync to your calendar and tasks and so on like that. Fine, whatever. I don't use those services. And so that's great in any case. So this keeps your Google services going. And so after this update now, Google can fully drop support for Exchange. What else? Xbox Music. Now this hasn't been so great. And in fact, I will skip that as well. I'll talk about that just before I talk about the camera, because that's sort of the second biggest thing. And it hasn't been as good as is made out here. Bluetooth. Many Bluetooth updates, especially for cars. Skype, Link, voice over IP stuff should be more stable and perform better. I found it's been performing pretty well, Skype, on this. I use it all the time. It's great. So that's good. If it performs better, then all the better. There have been some changes to Skype recently as well, where it no longer gives you a notification for every single message, but only for any particular person that has contacted you. But I think that was pre-Amber anyway. Internet Explorer has better media playback. I haven't seen that particular case, but it says so here. Okay, now let's go back to the music. Okay, now with music I have it's first thing I tried to do after upgrading was I went to my music and I thought, well, I'll shuffle my music around, I'll download some fresh. I wanted to first see if it downloaded itself from the backup. It didn't. It just referenced it, so the files were just like in the cloud but not on the phone. Okay, well, whatever, that's fine. So then I set about downloading the files, which is fine, but then I wanted to delete some files. Now you should all know that you can delete a file, say, by going in here. I hate that you have to do this. You should just be able to delete an album, but you can't on Windows Phone. It's awful. Don't know why it's like that, but you have to go to the actual track. And once you find the track listing, I've just got one track here. I've just downloaded as a sample. You find the track. You go here to the selection. If you've got lots of tracks, you go there again and you can select all, and it will select them all. Then you can delete right there. You sure you want to delete? Yes. Okay, now I'm going to see if this even works, because okay, that worked. Now that worked this time. It did not work before. It was impossible to delete the music that was put on the phone. It would let you delete, go through that process, but then the tracks would still be there. They wouldn't delete. And I dug my way around the Microsoft site, only to find a page that said that the only way to delete these items is through the Windows Phone or Xbox Music website, or through the Music app. And so I went there, deleted the items, and then they deleted off the phone. And the solution on the Microsoft page for this issue was a link to the feature request page, suggesting that people go there and ask for this as a feature for a future update, which to me just seemed insane. Now, I've just shown that just then I was actually able to delete a file. So let me just try that again with another instance of Labamba here. So let's just try that again. I'm going to try it like this. Okay, this is now working. This did not work, and the reason it's now working, so it's to do with the way the music somehow got on the phone. The tracks I could not delete were ones that appeared after the backup was restored. Those ones. The way I've gotten around it now, so if you're facing this issue, you've done the update, your tracks are all back on here, and then you try and delete something and it won't go. There seem to be two solutions to this, one of which I've just really confirmed now. One is to go to your go to the phone through the website, through Xbox Music, or through the Xbox Music app, and delete, assuming that your phone and your desktop PC use the same account, delete the tracks there, and that works. The second way is what I've done since then. I deleted everything. I just deleted all my tracks through the website off the phone. Then I confirmed that the phone was clear, and then I started downloading them again. And this time I did it through the Xbox Music app. I'd search for my songs there, and they would then show up here as albums, but they would be cloud albums, and I would then have to download them here, by going in, then going select, and then downloading the track like that, so that the files were on the phone. That's how it is now. All these files are on the phone because I've done it like that. Basically done it from scratch again. That now works, and I can delete tracks off the phone. So anyone who's stuck in that situation, that may be the fix for you. Or, as Microsoft says, go and ask for a feature change. I think it's just the whole thing getting out of sync in some way because of the backup, or I don't know what. In any case, Microsoft lists a whole stack of improvements to Xbox Music as part of this update, the GDR2. Apart from usability issues, which I think it has plenty, I really like the music player when I just want to browse through and play a track. But some things like making playlists is still incredibly confusing. Deleting albums, incredibly confusing and not really effective. Finding out what's on your phone and what's in the cloud, confusing. Like right now, I should be able to, here on my albums page, just be able to tell what's on my phone and what isn't, and you can't. You can't tell until you go into the album, and I can't even tell here. However, if I click that little all up there when you're in this view, and you go phone, you can see what's on the phone. If it's not on the phone, you get another little icon, or it vanishes or something. But the weird thing is you can't do a lot of stuff in the album screens. You can't carry out operations on albums like delete and so on. You can only do it here in the song screen. Well, once you're in the song screen, it's not sorted by albums. You want to just get rid of an album or something, you can't do it. And only on the song screen do you get the full list here of show me what's in the phone, what's in the cloud. But again, you can't tell what albums are downloaded and which aren't. The whole thing's very confusing and not very easy to use. So not crazy about that, but I like it as a music player. And I think my only advice would be, again, how I'm using this phone is I'm not synchronizing phone music to my phone through my computer. In fact, I almost never plug this into my computer. And all my old music on my computer is not synced to this. It's not even in my music folder. If you've seen a previous video of mine, you'll be aware of that. I only use Xbox Music now, Xbox Music Pass, and nothing else, and that's fine. If you just do that, and you just use the website or the Windows 8 app, and you just use the Windows Phone Store to get your music, it works. It works pretty well. So I'm happy with it like that. I still like it. It's really good. It's certainly quite fun to have just anything you want. I like that aspect of this type of Spotify or Xbox Music Pass system. So just to briefly touch upon what else they say they've fixed. It says they've made many improvements on how the phone works with the Xbox Music Cloud collection. Well, a bug about duplicate songs. Yep, I didn't have that problem, but obviously people did. The synchronization is much more frequent, so that's important. Yes, it always took too long for changes to be updated from one to the other. I've definitely noticed that. When I delete things from through the website, they come off the phone pretty quickly. We've made it easier to select multiple or all songs from cloud-based playlists and download them to your phone. Okay, so that may be just for playlists, but I bet they've basically just done the same thing where you have to go all the way down to the song list, tick the selecting thing, then go in and select all, then go download. It's a bit of a mess. I think any album, it should be this simple, any album should just give you all the options right there. You should have delete. If the album is not on the phone, it should say download this album. You know, basically, if it's you know, not in a playlist, it should have the playlist option there, and the same options should exist here as well. And on the tracks, on any given track, it should have them. Now it's got delete, but I don't think it has download there. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. You have to do it through this method here, and then there's the download button. You have to do that. You go select all, and then again, and you go download, and that's how you can download. It's a bit of a pain to do that. Okay. Also make sure your Windows 8 app on your desktop is updated as well to work with this. I think that overall the Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8 experience with the music player is better, or a lot better than people are having with Windows 7. If you're having difficulty with your music, perhaps, you know, consider getting Windows 8 and use the Metro app for this. That's pretty good. There's also now a Xbox Music website, which is really good. I use that on my desktop. It's music.xbox.com, music.xbox.com, and it's basically like the Xbox Music player, but in a web page. Just a web page. You get all your music there, all the albums there. You can delete them there, add them there, make playlists there, and do whatever you want. And it's through a web interface. It's quite nice. That's really quite good. So I like that as well. And it also says that when you're playing, that you shouldn't have the gaps in your playback, which is definitely a problem, because a lot of these albums I have are live albums, and it's irritating when you get to the end of one track. Well, in the concert they're still playing, but on the phone you get a gap, and then it starts up the next track, which is the same track continuing with all the applause and whistling and so on. You get this gap. So that's supposed to be fixed or improved, at least. Okay, so much for the music. I'll just get into the... I'm just going to run up and down the some of the settings and features just to see what else there was, and then I'll talk about the camera. Right, let's see. This is my wife's phone on my left, and this is mine here. Now, what other particular changes? Oh, of course, there's plenty of changes. Plenty of changes. Okay, well, this one for a start. Well, there. You can see the clock. Now, I'm very surprised by this, because this feature here, which they started off on one of their older phones, I think the N9, and or maybe on another one, certainly on the N9, it's really a feature of AMOLED screens, or LED screens, where the individual pixels are LEDs, are lights, and they just get lit up. So a clock like that would only use as much power as those pixels need that are lit. But this phone, the 920, has got an LCD, so the light is this whole panel. The entire panel has to light up. And I thought for sure that this feature with this clock, the always-on clock, would not be available for the 920, but it is. And I'm using it, and I've had it on full time. And what they've done is, apparently what they've done, the backlight is on. The LCD backlight is on across the whole screen, but it's on so very, very, very low, something like 1% of its total power. It's enough to see the numbers, because they aren't bright. When I look away, it's not bright, not like on the AMOLED screens either. It's really quite dim. But you can always see it. You can still always see it. See there? It's good enough to see. So now I can actually glance at my phone and see the time, and it's not bad. So I'm quite happy with that. Also, when you it changes position every now and then, so you don't, to avoid the risk of any kind of burn-in or, just like an old CRT, I guess. So it changes its position. And also when it's charging, it shows you the battery charge next to it as well. And so that's cool. Great. They've done it. It's there. It works. Fantastic. And the other feature that's related to this is the double tap to wake. So, you double tap and it wakes up. Turns off very, very quickly again. Oh, look at my battery. I have been using this today. I might have to plug it in. That's the first time I've had to plug it in during the day. Gosh. The double tap to wake is quite neat. I didn't think I would use it because I thought it would probably, I'd end up turning it on all the time, and in fact that's probably why that's used battery. I wonder if that's the case, because I pulled it out of my pocket before and the screen was somewhere where I hadn't left it. It was doing something. It was either on the dialer or something like that, and I wondered how it got there, and it might have been, my concern is that, well, it picks up a double tap somehow in your pocket or just when you're playing with it, putting it away. It comes on and then something launches. So I'm unsure about that particular feature, but it works. And then the other thing is you still have to do this, and I've just added a feature request to the Microsoft Windows Phone feature request page, which will probably get no votes at all, but I put it there anyway. And the feature request that I'd like to see is to get rid of the lock screen, because the more I use it, the more I think I don't want to use it. This thing here, I mean, it's a nice picture, but it just serves no purpose at all. All I do on that screen is swipe it out of the way, and I see no reason why it shouldn't just turn on and immediately go to that screen. I mean, these lock screens, as I recall from my first, my old Windows mobile phones way back, the idea was that you couldn't launch something by mistake. If the phone came on in your pocket, it would come on and then you couldn't launch something. Well, that just doesn't happen anymore. With this phone, certainly with this phone, it just doesn't happen. And so if it comes on to that, well, it doesn't come on to that. It just never happens. So I would like an option to bypass that and just have it come straight onto the phone. I don't really need this extra screen. It just seems superfluous. And certainly also in this situation, you've got the double tap thing going on, like that. Again, it'd be nice if you do that, and then there's the phone. Of course, I may have my foot in my mouth if then the phone was launching all the time, like I was saying before. I thought something might have wiped out my battery. May have been exactly that did it. I don't know. But in any case, I'd like to get straight to this screen. Okay. Other features to do with this new, where is it under? It's under the Nokia apps, display and touch, I think it is. Sunlight readability the same, battery saver, touch here, no, glance, it's called the glance, and so that can be always on, the clock. It can be timed, so it just comes on for a period, I think 15 minutes, and then goes off. And then it can be peak mode, which is interesting. You put it on that, and the timer only comes on when you put your hand over the phone like that. So you go like that, over the proximity sensor like that, and the camera comes on. I've been trying it out with just having the thing on. I've had it on for the last 3 days, and didn't have any problem with the battery. It's till just now, which is a bit odd. So I'm not sure what did that today. But in any case, you've got those different modes for that time, for that clock. And then you can also have this night mode where between certain times here, which you set, you can tell it to, all it does is it changes the color to red, I think. I haven't actually seen it. I've set the time, but I haven't actually seen it. It changes it to red, I think, just so it's not so irritating, which doesn't matter on this phone so much, but I'm sure on the AMOLED screens it might be quite bright. Not really sure. Other things in the display. This is cool. Now, I thought they added this color profile setting because when they did the Lumia 925 and the 928, one of the new features was the AMOLED screen. And the trouble with the AMOLED screens is they have very bright, unrealistic colors. And when you're trying to do photography and so on, it matters, or watching videos, it matters, or judging your photographs, it matters if the screen is unduly saturating the colors. And so I thought, to ward off any criticism about that, about changing to the LED screens, I thought they've come up with that, which is very cool. And so what it is you can set the saturation and the temperature of your screen. And so if you have an AMOLED screen, you can tone down the colors and make it a bit less saturated. And if you find it's a little too blue, and again in reviews this often comes up, people say, oh, the screen was too blue on that Samsung or whatever because of the AMOLED screen or something. That's a common one. Well, on your Lumia 925 or your 928 or your 1020, you can just desaturate it. You can do that and desaturate it. So that's a great feature. Now, it exists here on this phone as well. The first thing I thought I'd like to do is to saturate it, because the 920, after my Lumia 800, the 920 seemed to have very washed out colors. It doesn't so much now. If I look at the start, I think, oh no, it's very bright and colorful. But when you hold it up next to an LED display, it is actually very gray and washed out. So that's a relative thing. So I thought I'll whack it up in here just for fun. And it's one thing I note is it's extremely subtle. I can just see it happening there. It's pretty subtle. You get these pictures here that you can use to test it against. Yeah, I mean it's there, the change, but it's pretty subtle. Certainly I tried it like that, and that seems pretty good. I quite like it like that. Certainly if I had an AMOLED screen, I would not have it all the way up. I'd probably go the other way a little bit. And so here I also go from cool to warm in your color, which is nice as well. I think it stays on neutral on mine, but the adjustment option is there, so that's really cool to have. That's a great thing to have, especially if you have a 1020 and you're trying to set your phone up, your camera up, that you're taking accurate pictures. Not that that's something that anyone cares about these days with Instagram and the super extreme saturated images on Flickr that we see. The other features are all still there. Battery saver, sunlight, readability. There's the double tap to wake up the phone, and it does say turning on double tap uses more power. I don't think that's responsible for that drain today, though. Okay, so that's everything in there. I'll leave that for now. Other things, there were some extra features here, blocking calls and text messaging. I haven't got that issue, but I did in the past once, where you want to be able to block a number and block messages from someone. So, great, good to have. Display and touch details. Audio is the same, I think. No, flip to silence. This is one that they introduced in Windows Phone 7.5, and then they dropped it out again for 8. So if you get a call, I was in the habit of doing that, on my old Lumia 800, and then for the 920 I had to unlearn that habit again, so now I can pick it up again, so that's great. It just shuts the phone up when you flip it, so that's great to have back. Find my phone. Right. Nothing else in there in particular that I recall being of interest. No. No new colors. Would it be nice to see some new colors? Okay. Right. Camera. Let's get on to that quickly, as quick as possible. I thought it was a great move of Nokia to give away the new Pro camera that they made for the 920 to all 900 series cameras. Basically all the ones that have the optical image stabilization. That was a nice move, really good, because the camera is, if you've watched my videos, you may have picked up on the idea that all I want in a camera, in camera controls, is this. I said I wanted right under my thumb, I wanted the exposure compensation, like in a slider going up and down, and look at that, there it is, exposure compensation right there. That's the most important setting here. Excellent. So we can set that now straight away. When I first launched this, I found it a bit confusing, or because it was too sensitive. Everything I touched would sort of take pictures, and it was just being a pain. But I got used to it. It's a bit weird. So, for example, to activate any one of these new settings, you have to touch the little button in there. These are tiny. These are really, really tiny. I mean, this is a Lumia 920. It's a fairly large screen. But these are tiny, tiny little settings. I saw no reason why those couldn't be bigger. Or perhaps in some way different, maybe available on a swipe in or something, but yeah, I'm not sure about those up there. They're there all the time, so they're in the way, and they're tiny. It's fine for the first one, which is the exposure compensation, but after that you've got to reach over quite a bit to get to them, and then it's easy to miss one because you're sort of trying to tap one of these little tiny buttons with your flat thumb. I don't know, it's pretty small. It's fine like this, but who wants to do that? You want to be, using it like that. So in any case, exposure compensation on there, fantastic. It's a little bit difficult to get it back to the 0 position sometimes. It's like you almost want it to have a quick back to default kind of thing, like maybe a double tap on that or something. These other controls are variable, are great ideas. Okay, so your shutter speed, really interesting. Of particular interest is you can manually go down to 4 seconds, and they did a demo where they did some things where you can show moving lights and so on. So you can show motion. That's what's nice about that. You can purposely show motion. Now the trouble with a camera like this is without an aperture, without a variable aperture, you haven't got anything to compensate for this. When you change it, move that down, all you've got to compensate for your increasing exposure time here is your ISO. You can make that, make it less and less sensitive, but see, if I look at this now, it's saying ISO 3200 at a high shutter speed. As I go down, ISO 150, 200, bang, ISO 100. Well, that's the lowest ISO, and I'm at 0.5 seconds. And that's when it turns red. This little thing, it tells you with a little line that all of a sudden now the camera can no longer give what it thinks is the correct exposure. So beyond that particular setting, which is obviously say a third of a second or so, it's actually going to overexpose. That's what's going to happen. Whereas on a proper camera, you would then compensate by turning the making the aperture smaller. On a phone like this, you'd actually have to use a neutral density filter or something to compensate for that. But in any case, at night time, if it's quite dark, you shouldn't run into that problem. Yeah. You shouldn't run into that problem so much. You should be able, in some cases, go down to 4 seconds if it's dark enough. In any case, that's nice. That's the exposure time. The next one is the ASA. Basically the same applies to that. I mean, ASA, people think that it's the most essential thing. It's actually not essential at all. All that matters is the camera by itself will keep the ASA as low as possible, and that's what it should do, because you don't want noise. Noise is not film grain. Film grain is nice. Noise is rubbish. And so until noise becomes fashionable, one typically wants the ISO to be as low as possible, and the camera by itself increases the ISO as necessary anyway. So leaving your ISO on auto is all you need. There's almost never any need to change it. So that's not so important. I don't know why that's there. Probably because some people want it. The next one is the autofocus. Now this, of course, has a lot of potential, because you can, I shouldn't be showing you something ugly like that. I'll show you something like that. Nice thing about about manual focus, obviously, is that we can focus up close nicely, and then say you're shooting a video, you can actually shoot the video and pan up somewhere to something in the distance, and slowly, as I'm doing here, move your focus up, right, like that. You can go like that and change your focus. So that's really nice. And it works, except the one drawback is that at both ends of the scale here, see right there it goes from from manual, into auto, and then it goes plonk, it goes all crappy like that. See, it says auto, but it actually means it's not in focus, and it's not going to focus until I do that, push the button, you see. And so if you're trying to, basically this action of always flicking back and forth between those two spots is irritating. It would be nice if it simply at the very end went to auto, and not like 5 or 10 degrees before that it only went to auto at the actual end point. That might help. I'm not really sure, but it seems to happen partway there in this clunky sort of way. And the same happens at the top end as well. As you go the other way, instead of just going to infinity by itself, which is what it's telling me it's doing, it's saying I'm going up, up and up, and then bang, infinity. Again, the camera lens does something weird, and it plops. See that? It's got this uneven kind of plopping into a different mode, which is a bit of a pain. Yeah, it's just not smooth. I would expect it to just go smoothly up to infinity, but it doesn't. It goes smooth, 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 fart. There. Plop. Don't like that. So that's not too great. Yeah, so it works fine in the middle. It's nice and smooth in the middle, but you're always worried about getting to the ends because you're going to get that plop. Next thing is the white balance. That's nice to have here because, in particular, that's to me the second most important setting after the exposure compensation is the white balance, because that's your color. And the camera sometimes gets it right, sometimes does not. You're basically wanting to adjust the white balance, the warmth or coolness of the image. These are the typical presets of cloudy, sunny, fluorescent lights and so on, incandescent lights. I think they should just give that up and just turn this into a simple color temperature scale, just like the we just saw in the screen display settings. Just set the color temperature. Tell us what the color temperature is, and do it smoothly. Is that going smoothly? Yeah, it sort of drops very quickly into this strong blue about there somewhere. It seems to be slow to react too, so that's on that setting up there. If I go here, there, it takes that long for it to change. Go back the other way, this way. It's as if the speed is changing at the speed that it does when it's shooting video, and it changes. It's like it's doing that, but here when I do it in the camera, I can understand that it would do that in the video mode, but in the default camera mode it shouldn't. It should just flip between them, or give us a nice smooth progressive display change of color temperature. But it's great to have it here anyway, because basically you're normally wanting to warm up your image a bit. Now to set an item back to auto, you really got to open it and move it down like that. The last one is the flash, and it's so tiny. I mean, it's almost impossible to read there. So it says flash, it says FL, and then if you tap it, it tells you down in the corner here what's going on. Flash off, flash auto, flash on, focus light only, no focus light. That's how I like it. But that's also nice to have there. Other controls here, it's very cool to switch back and forth between video and stills like that. You just flick it like that, because that used to be a serious pain in the bum to have to go into the settings to change that. So that's nice and quick now. The other thing is, if you are unsure which of these settings you want to play with, if you put your thumb on this control and then slide it out like that, you get them all, which is that very cool looking display that we see in the we've been seeing for the Lumia 1020. So that's neat. And then once you've got it in that mode, you can pick the thing you want. Like, I want to play with ISO. You grab it with your thumb and you pull it over here, or wherever you want. But the idea is you get it out of the way so that then you can see your image, and you can then see the effect of what you're doing. So I'll put that back to auto. I might go to autofocus. To the focus, and then I change my focus, and as I get down, all of a sudden it'll go plop there. That's that irritating thing I'm mentioning before. Okay, and the way to get out of any of these particular settings is to hit your back button, which is always a bit dubious. I'm not crazy about things that use the back button to undo, to remove a menu, because same with typing text into a form or into a text box, and you're thinking the only way to get rid of the keyboard is to tap the back button. But if you tap it, if it registers a double tap or something, you may end up stepping out of the thing you were doing and thus losing what you were doing. So, because, you know, one extra step and you're out of the camera, and then whatever you had configured is gone. So I'm not sure about the UI value of the back button for example, you've done this, you've made your change, then how do you get that off the screen? You know, the only way to get that off the screen is to go back. Make your change to your shutter speed. I suppose you can probably go up there and get rid of it as well. You can go back up there and do it. That works. But I've been using the back button. Not sure about that. So this, I want to get back to there, that, back to there, and then back button to get rid of it. Okay, so love the camera. It takes a bit of getting used to. There's a nice tutorial on the way through when you first set it up, same as on the 1020. And overall it's quite good. Up here you do have some settings of interest, as things like when you're looking at a picture, you now get the not there, you don't. That's interesting. In here, after you've taken a picture like that, and you look at the picture with that little button. There's two little icons here. One of them is your pictures gallery, and the other one is like the last picture, which is a bit funny. You don't just have that swipe across like you do with the default Windows 8 phone camera, which is really nice and easy. You don't get that with this. You open the picture again, it opens it in this app, and in here you can do the picture info, which gives you the actual EXIF data, which is really nice. Zoom level, exposure compensation, shutter speed, ISO, white balance, and so on. That's useful to look at. And also really useful in here, of course, is one thing is it's a lot, you can zoom in a lot further than you could previously, and the quality is much, much better. So it's really quite amazing like that. You know, you can really get in there and see what's going on. And of course, with this button here, you will all have seen this in the Lumia 1020 videos. You press that, and this is a biggie for me because I'm very fussy about horizons and so on. And it's putting a grid up on the screen, which I can see here, but might not be clear enough for you on the video. I'm always wanting to change a picture's rotation by, say, 1 degree or half a degree or something, because I haven't aligned something perfectly in the viewfinder. And because in some images that matters, not in every, but in some images after symmetry or alignment, and that matters. And so none of the apps, you know, like I've got the Thumba photo editor and so on, when those have rotation, it's always 90 degrees in either direction, and that's just completely useless. That's not what I want rotation for. I want to be able to do this, you know, make a tiny, tiny change like that, line it up, and then release it. And if I don't get it, I mean, I can always try again. It's a little bit funny to get it going. It has this kind of a sticking point at the start, but once you've got it, bang, there, yeah. And you can try it, and you can reframe it and do all this kind of reframing, just like they advertise, you know, that whole Zoom reinvented kind of thing they're going on about. So there we go. There's my desktop wallpaper. You do that. So you can save it at that point, and that's your image. And then you can come back in here and re-edit it, reframe it, just like with the 1020. Of course, it's not lossless, in that theoretical lossless thing like the 1020. But it's still good. And hey, the pictures are 8 megapixels, or 7. They're not 5 like the 1020. So in fact, there would be a little bit of extra to play with. You could zoom in about like that, and still have as many pixels as the 1020. Revert. So love that. That's all great to have. And just step out of there. But yes, you don't get that cool swiping back and forth to the gallery like you do with the standard phone app. So it's not as cool in that regard. So it's nice maybe to still have the standard phone app. There's a slightly better snap shooter. This is for serious picture taking if you really want to do a little bit better. So that's why they call it the Pro camera. That's what it is. Very, very cool. Other things, there are still camera settings. Front camera, shutter delay, so you can get in front of the camera. Bracketing, which seems ridiculous to me. I mean, we've got exposure compensation. If this isn't like in the old days when we were shooting film, where you'd bracket because you wanted to be absolutely sure that all your settings and all your exposures and everything you were doing was going to be correct, because you don't see the result until you're back out of the darkroom again. With a digital camera like this, you see the result right there instantly. I'm amazed that anyone would use bracketing. It's pointless, completely pointless. However, people like to think that they have a professional camera, and bracketing is one of those things that cameras would have, or you would. I mean, you don't have it. I mean, I remember when AF cameras got it, but in the old days, of course, you would do it. You'd sit there on either your aperture or your shutter speed, and you would bracket. Stop up, stop down, and once in the middle. It's generally for people who don't really know how to set an exposure. That's what bracketing's for. So that's there. Interesting. Other settings in here, of course, the important one, which is somewhere, is it's actually elsewhere here in the phone settings, is that you can set the Pro camera to work off your shutter button. So that's very important and very cool. There's this detect faces, which I'm not sure why that's in here. Detect faces on off. I've left it on. I don't know why it's in here. I presume it belongs to the not Cinematograph, but the other one, the Smart camera. But I don't know why that's here in Pro camera. Framing grids, I like these. You can have some a grid on your screen, because I do quite often like to have that. And so there we go. You can see there's a grid right there across the screen, just for alignment. So I like to have that. Very cool. And what else? Put that away. Quick access. Oh, and the video, of course. Again, for the video, people go on about how the 1020, I love it how they call it the cinematic mode. It's just a slow speed, slow shutter, slow frame rate on the video camera, which of course with movies gives you that awful blurred image for every frame when they pan the camera. And people obviously have decided that that's a really cool feature of film, and so they want to emulate that or something, and so that's what they're doing here. You've got, just like on the 1020, you can go 1080p 24 frames per second, 720p 24. It's great. So excellent. There it is. Fun to play with. This here, audio bass filter. Now this is a lot more useful than you might think. Fans of these cameras will know that they have the special microphones that can pretty much record a gig without distortion. Now, it's not entirely true. I went to a Steve Vai gig recently with this camera, recorded it, and there was plenty of distortion. And you know where the distortion was? It was in the bass. And so I was not surprised at all to see that when they did the 1020, or this update, they put a bass filter. It's basically a notch filter on the bass. So you can notch out the bass. So obviously they probably did the same thing. They went to a gig, tried it out, and found the same thing I found out, that the bass is too emphasized and distorts quite badly. And so you can have that on now, and so next time I record a gig, I'm going to have that filter on, no doubt about it. So another nice feature with this ProCam and the video is this. So I'm just going to leave that on 720 because I quite often record on 720 just because of the space. You know, you fit a whole lot more video in 720p than you do in 1080. And so very nice. Again, this is what feature from the 1020 that's made it across here. Whilst you're videoing, you can zoom in, and you can zoom in with one touch. Go like that. See, and you can zoom in. And it's doing this in a lossless way, because of course the 720p is only a smaller part of the center of the CCD, even at this size, and so it lets you use the rest of the CCD by giving you lossless zooming up to a certain point. And the nice thing is it stops at that point, so it doesn't just keep going and leave it up to you to guess where that point is, and beyond that point you would have lower resolution video. It actually stops at that point, so that's very cool. So now you can actually do a video and zoom in, and it works very well. It's just, it's just usable. It's not a professional look, but it's good enough, definitely good enough for family shots. Tourist kind of shots. You can zoom in on some detail in a building or whatever, and zoom back out again without too much jiggle. So that's great to have. It also has the focus for the video, so you can do this focus. Now that should be good, but it has those issues I mentioned earlier, where when you reach one end or the other of this scale, if you don't keep your eyes on it and stop well before then, you all of a sudden get that flop, plop, and you go, there we go, buggered that up. So not so sure about that, but in theory it's good to have. Now, what was I going to say about the zooming? Yes, now, in a similar vein, the zooming also has that problem. Now watch this. If we zoom in, I would want it, as I zoom like this, where it's going to stop, I would just want it to stop smoothly. So if I zoom up quickly, bang, it just stops there. All of a sudden it just stops. Plonk. I would like it to just simply sort of like slow down at that point and stop smoothly by itself, even if I continue dragging my thumb up. And when I release my thumb, it should just stay exactly where it was. But what it actually does, it has a little bounce in it. When you get to the end, see that? It bounces. When you let go, it bounces back. So it's got that kind of Windows 8 feature like the scrolling and the web pages have, where when you reach the end, it squeezes up a bit and then pops back to provide a visual kind of idea that you've reached the end of something. Well, that's fine on web pages, but should definitely not happen with this zoom, because you don't want it to go plop back again. You just want it to simply go up and stop. That's what should happen. So just if anyone from Nokia is watching this, please fix that up. That would be pretty easy to do. Otherwise, the digital zoom is great. If you go to the other mode here, oops, the settings, and to 1080, what you get is same feature, not as far. See, it stops about there. Go out, go in. You get something like 1.7 or 1.8 times zoom, which is still nice to have because you can do a nice portrait of someone at that kind of focal length. Looks good. But again, I'll just zoom up to there, and then I'll let go. Plop, plop. Keeps popping back, which is not good at all. So if you're going to zoom in on someone, you'd almost have to keep your thumb there. No, it's not going to work. You'd have to keep your thumb there and not budge until you zoomed out again, and then slowly zoom back again. And that's no good. You want to zoom in, and then when it finishes, just let go and not have it do that pop out like it's doing. Okay, take that back out. And in this mode, the only controls you get are the focus and the white balance, which is good, but I think it should also have the exposure compensation. I don't know why that's missing from there. It should be there. You should be able to compensate the exposure as well. That would be very cool if you could do that. So they should add that in the same way. You want to be able to do that smoothly while you're working the camera. Okay, go back to the this one. One other feature I didn't mention earlier is the ability to set the focus spot. See there? I've just tapped there, and I don't know if you can see it, but I'll move that away. See that little circle? Depending on when you tap, it puts the focus spot there and leaves it there. So just nice to have. So again, when you're saying you're doing a rule of thirds photograph here, which is what this grid is for, and you're going to put your subject there. Not only can you put your subject there, but you can put your focus there. So that's nice, because usually what happens if your focus is only in the middle and you compose off to the side, or even if you have like two people, a person there and a person there, typically what happens is they may be standing there like that, and because your focus spot's in the middle, the background's in focus, you see, like that, and the two people are not. That's exactly what happens. Whereas with this, you can go plonk, and now, if it's smart, it's going to focus. I don't see it doing it. It didn't. Was I too close? You naughty camera. Ha! Well, that's not working. It's supposed to focus on my finger. Ah, that's interesting. At least I'm sure that's what it's for. I'll have to look that up and see if that is what it's for, but that's I was quite certain that was the focus spot. What else could it be? The exposure spot? Of course it's the focus spot, because it keeps refocusing. Let me just quickly try and confirm that somehow by having that there and that there. I'm going to change focus variously on the text here and on that in the background. So these are quite far apart. So that, yeah, there we go. It's focusing on the text on the right. Oops, so you can't really see that there. Let me try and do that again for you. If I go there, it focuses on the card. If I go there, it's focusing on that, and this is now out of focus. It's not very strong, but yeah, that was working. I don't know why I couldn't focus on my fingers. Probably because they're so featureless and ugly. Okay. Back to this. So that feature is also very cool. I like that. To get back to the old camera, the old camera is here as a lens. And I tell you what, when you fire that up, it just feels junky. It feels horrible to look at it again. But it's there. It works the same as it did before. It's quicker. It's a lot quicker to use. So I do think for shooting snapshots, I've got the Pro camera set as the default, but I may actually change that back to this one for the snaps, and then use the lenses to get to the Pro cam, like that. I might do that after a bit. I'll just play with it a bit further, see how I go. All the usual stuff in there. I don't really use a smart cam or any of that. I'll play with it, but I don't really think it's part of this. Obviously that can do all those cool effects, like, if you're used to taking photos of people where other people are walking in front of them, and if you remember to launch the smart camera and take, let it take 10 photos while you're taking a photo of one person while other people walking in front. I don't know. To me that scenario just doesn't happen. I don't know when that happens. And if it did happen, the chances that I'd come in here and have thought ahead to use a smart camera, it just wouldn't happen. So I don't really know what that's for. But you can do quite cool effects with it, which is neat, swapping faces and getting a good face. And in a group shot of a family at an event or a gathering, I probably would fire that up now and use it, because it is good to change a face around now and then. Other cool things that came as part of this update were the video uploading to YouTube. Those are all apps that you get from Nokia through, Nokia in the store. When you go to the store and go to the Nokia section, you can get the video trimmer. Finally, you can trim your videos and then upload just a portion of them to YouTube. That's excellent. And the Nokia Video Upload, which actually does the uploading, so that's cool too. These apps are so simple that they don't really have anything on them, so if you haven't got a video on your phone, they don't even show anything. There's really nothing to them, just that. Okay, really, hour 10, my gosh. What else can I address? Okay, the next thing I'm going to address is I'm going to tack on to the end of this video, or perhaps do it as a second video. I might do it as a second video. I've taken some photos with these two cameras, one Portico, one Amber, and taken some photos out the window just of the buildings up the hill here, and I'm going to examine how the ProCam does things differently from the default camera in the phone, because part of the Amber updates were improvements to the quality of the images. And it's pretty obvious. I thought it was immediately apparent when I first booted this up and tried the camera that the camera was definitely sharpening more. Okay, the images are sharper. It's partly apparent because you can enlarge them much bigger and they display sharper on the phone. But so I want to look into that and see what they've done, see what changes they've made. So thanks for watching this one. Give me a like if you like it, and if you've made it this far, you probably do. So thanks for that, and subscribe if you want to see more, and look for a follow-up video to this one about these I might call it Portico Amber photo comparison or something like that. Just have a look for that. Okay, thanks everyone. Bye bye.